All right, I am back. Sorry about that. Not quite sure what the hiccup was, but things are loading. All right, so this is back to the hold music. So you can upload your own file, again, the .wave.mp3.ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Just find it on your computer. Then click the little up arrow icon here, and then it'll upload the file, and then you click on Save Changes. All right, so now we go to main number. The business hours at to the right of the caller ID is a part of main number. That's why I'm going to main number directly. Now the main number page does take a little while to load. At the top here, we got my main company numbers, and these are my primary numbers that my customers call to reach my my staff members. Right. Now, if you don't have any here, right, you just signed up, you didn't select a number at sign in, you would go to By Numbers. You have your options of local and toll-free. Toll-free, right, you select the toll-free prefix, then you click Search, and then you just add a number you like. You can add multiple, right? If I wanted to, I can add like 5 numbers here, for example. Shows my cart, I have 1. Here's the number. I could remove it if I decide I don't like it after all, or I can simply just buy the number. Now the system is verifying the number was still truly available, then moving it to my account and activating it. Right. If you have extra numbers on your account, right, I have those spare numbers, I can always choose to select them and add them to my account here. Also under By Numbers, you have local. Now for local, you need to know the area code that you want to search in. For the big metropolitan areas, you might have to search several area codes, right? Like 310. It's an LA area code. All right, it says, oh, we don't have any, which just means that area code is exhausted. Our porting team can place a back order for 310 area code phone number. However, we don't know when or even if we'll get a number, much less what it's going to look like and what the numbers actually are. So then, in that kind of situation, I would want to look up an alternate area code that's nearby. Right. So 323. See what's around, and then I can add a number. Right, so for any big metro area or anywhere that has you're forced to do 10-digit dialing, that means you have what's called an overlay area code. So just be aware of those, and you might want to search both to get a number that you want. All right. Now each of these numbers has a little gear icon here, right? So you can set up caller ID for each number. So I can set up the CNAM information for an individual outbound number, as well as turn on the ability to have CNAM come into my account. And that means call comes in on all of my staff members' VoIP phones, they'll see the inbound CNAM information if it's available. E911, this is where you would set up the E911 for each individual phone number. Prepend, this is a VoIP phone feature. You can add text that will show up in front of the caller ID on a VoIP phone's display. It will give, basically, it gives your staff members a heads up about what the call might be about. Or it came in on the toll-free promo number. Right, I could put in TF promo. Click on Save Changes, and now that So that TF promo will show up on my staff members' white phones displays when calls come in on that phone number. Now, if I decide I don't want a number as a main number anymore for whatever reasons, like let's say this was an LA area code phone number and we're leaving that market for whatever reasons, I can unassign the number. And now the number's still on my account. It's just not currently being used. And I can delete that when we get to the numbers section. All right, office hour strategy. For new signups, you start off with 24-hour open office. Or you can choose custom office hours. If you do so, put a check mark in front of each day of the week that you're open. And then in these boxes here to the right, you select your open hours in 24-hour or military time. You also have the option at the bottom to put a check mark if you're closed for lunch. And then, again, boxes to set your lunch hours in 24-hour or military time. And then click on Save Changes. Next, you have office holidays. If you're closed for holidays, put a check mark in front of are you closed for holidays. And then to the right, we've got Add Holiday. When you click on that, you have your options here for single day, date range, or advanced. Each one of those creates a new row. So for example, we've got President's Day here. You give it a name, you select the month and the date. Right, that's for a single day. For date range, we got Christmas. Again, starts on December 23rd, ends on December 26th. One thing to keep in mind about the date range, if you notice, there's no year indicator. So you want to avoid a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. You just want to do those as single days, like I have here. Right, I have New Year's Eve and I have New Year's Day there. Lastly, we have the advanced option, which is I have here under the retreat. So you give it a name, you choose the month, and then in this middle column here, or middle pull down, you have first through fifth as well as last, and then the day of the week. Right, so in this case, I'm saying the first Friday in July, we're on company picnic day. And then you would click on Save Changes. One thing to keep in mind for holidays where the date changes, so like President's Day, you don't want to update that the exact next day, because then you might put yourself closed in back-to-back days. So normally, let's say if a holiday falls on a Monday, say come back in on Wednesday and then make the change. All right, incoming call handling. So this is for the main numbers. Basically, how is the system going to handle the calls that come in on these numbers? You notice I have open hours, I have lunch hours, so I'm saying I'm closed for lunch. I have after hours, and I have holidays. Right? Now, if I chose not to be closed for lunch, I wouldn't have a lunch hours tab. Likewise, if I said I'm not closed for holidays, right, that tab wouldn't be there. And if I said I'm 24-hour open office, then I would not have after hours. Now, these sub-tabs all have the same basic options. Right? So call comes in, going to my virtual receptionist. If I click on there, you notice on the left, that's my main menu. That is what people press on their phones to navigate through the phone system. Right? And if I need to add additional options, I would click on where it says Add Route. And then you have a pull down here. Now this first pull down, 0 through 9, as well as the star key, and you've got the default route. And then here you're telling the system where are you sending the calls. I'll go up here so we can get a better idea. So the default is a smart PBX directory, right? The dial by name or company directory. You can send it to a specific person, right? So one of your staff members. I just need to be a user on the account. You can send it to a call queue. This is if you're making use of ECD queues. You can send it to a specific device, right? So someone's cell phone, for example. Now, the caveat there is if there's no voicemail associated with that device, then it may not be a great experience for your inbound caller, for your customer. Media, you can have it play a specific greeting. If someone presses 0, right, you can have it go play a greeting. Now, once the greeting file ends, then the call ends. Groups, shorthand for ring groups, this is like departments. These groups and ACD queues are related in that groups are basically a simplified version of queues. And then advanced call flows, this would be if you're making use of submenuing or if you have some custom work on your account. And then lastly, voicemail boxes. Now over here to the right, we have greetings, and you have the different types of greetings you can make use of. First is text-to-speech. You simply type in what you want the greeting to say. This isn't a computerized or robotic voice. You have about 250 to 350 characters to choose or to work with, so please be aware of that. Once you click update, then save and save changes, the system will save it as, in this case, main open hours menu TTS. Now, let's say I come back an hour later and said, oh, that's not the greeting I want to say, and I retype it. The system will save it with that same menu name, or that same name, right? Main open hours menu TTS. What I recommend is when you create a text-to-speech greeting, go over to your greetings tab, which we'll be getting to later, and then change the name to something you'll recognize. So that way, if you need to switch back to it, you can do so easily, versus wondering, which one of these 5 main open hours menu TTS greetings is the one I actually want to use. You can upload your own file, .wav, .ogg, .mp3, recorded in mono, under 1 megabyte. You can choose from an existing recording. This pull down will show all your media files that you've added to the account. You can choose one that you want to work with. And you see here I have a main open hours menu TTS file there. You can record it over the phone. Now, it says here, pick up a phone registered to the account. That means the system wants you to use a VoIP phone that you've added to the account. That's a security feature. If you don't want to do that, right? Let's say you have a friend who's got the great radio voice and you just say, hey, I just want you to use your cell phone, call in. If you scroll down under settings, this first one here, this one here, allow outside recording. If you turn this to on, that means someone with a cell phone or landline can call in and record over the phone. Now, the next thing they would need is this PIN number. This PIN number is specific to this time of day. So I'm in my open hours. That means the PIN number only works during my open hours, right? So if I called in after hours, I called at 9 p.m., and I use this PIN number, it won't work. I have to use the after hours PIN number. The other thing to keep in mind about recording it over the phone, if your account already has a greeting file in place and you call in to record over the phone, you're overwriting that file, right? So greeting file A is playing, you call in, record it over the phone. Greeting file A, that file name stays the same, but you just overwrote the content. So if greeting file A is your typical greeting for most of the year, and you switch back to it after holidays, for example, you probably want to make sure that you change it before you record it over the phone so you don't overwrite it accidentally. Then we've got professional recording services. When you click order, you'll be taken to a web page hosted by Snap Recordings, who we've partnered with. They have like 100 actors and actresses to choose from. They have different versions of English, Spanish, and French, so you can obviously do multilingual greetings. They have various other packages you can look at. They deliver via email, and they have their own pricing, which we denote here. But you can also see on their page when you click on the order button. And then we've got these settings. So first is number of retries on misdial. This is how many times your inbound caller can press an invalid menu option. Right, so I'm basically saying, hey, they can mess up twice. Right, so caller comes in and they press 7. It's once, right? They'll hear the greeting again, and then they press 8. They hear greeting the third time, and if they press 8 again, right, the system will end the call, and it will play the invalid entry message. Now, if we go back and I add a route here, if you have a default route in place and they mess up twice, sorry, that third attempt they'll send them to the default route. The reason against having a default route is for robodialers. Right? If a robodialer calls into your main numbers, it'll eventually get to your default route and use up time. Sorry about that. One minute. Sorry, looks like I'm still having some issues here. All right. So dialing timeout, sorry about that. This is how much time the system waits after it hears a button press before it assumes the inbound caller is done, right? So that person calls in, they press 8, the system waits 10 seconds essentially, and then says, oh, you're done. And then in this case, we'll play the invalid menu option or invalid entry message. For most people, I say take it down to like 5, 10's typically kind of long. All right, so we already covered the outside recording. Basically, this allows you to turn on the ability to make change your main greeting from a cell phone or landline. Then we got allow dialing extensions. So if this is off, that means when your inbound caller gets to your main menu, these are the only options they have. Right? If they know someone's extension, they're not able to get there. They have to press like 0 through 5. Now, if you turn this on, if they know the person's extension, they can enter it, and they can connect to that person. And then we have the suppress playing of invalid entry. So if you don't want that message to play when someone enters in an invalid option, right? So they press 8, and you don't want the system to say invalid entry, you can turn this on so they won't hear that message. Now, Any changes you make to the main menu, greetings, or settings, you want to click Save here. You also need to click Save Changes under Incoming Call Handling. Right. So I'm just switching over to lunch hours just to make it a cleaner break. But this second option here, this is a live operator answer option. Right? So in this case, right, call comes in, it's being offered to Aaron, and then going to the virtual receptionist. This is a pull down, right? So I can select any other user. I can send it to a device. I can send it to a group, right? I can send it to a media file. I don't recommend that, just because that can be confusing to your inbound caller. You can send it to an advanced call flow. You can send it to queues. So for instance, I can send it to my receptionist group, right? So call comes in, it's gonna ring to whoever I select for 20 seconds, right? If no one picks up in 20 seconds, then it goes to there's a virtual receptionist. Right, now this is my lunch hours virtual receptionist, so I can have a different menu options. I can have a different greeting. I still have these settings as options here. So then I would click Save, and then Save Changes. Now, if say under my open hours, I decided to do this, right, live operator offer to Aaron. If I go to the virtual receptionist here under open hours, right, it'll be the one we were looking at previously. So it's the same virtual receptionist, it's based off of the time of day. Right? All right, so after hours, calls, in this case, I'm sending calls right to this voicemail. Now, if I go up here, right, I can send it to a user, I can send it to a group, I can send it to a media file, I can send it to a device, I can send it to a queue, or this last option, send it straight to voicemail. So if I'm sending it to a device or a user, a group, a queue, etc., it's going to send it for 20 seconds, right? And then it'll go to this voicemail box. And again, you can select any voicemail box on the account. Holidays, again, you got the same basic options. For like a small, like 1 or 2 person shop, I normally see the holidays is the skip to voicemail. Right? Boom, go to the voicemail, hey, we're closed for the holiday. You could send it to an advanced call flow. This is if you have multiple auto attendants. That's a plan-specific feature. But basically, like, you have a secondary business, for instance. All right. Main conference number. Again, you can add from spare numbers, right? Or you can buy new numbers. You also have the option here for custom greeting. And if I enable it, it's text-to-speech, so you can type in what you want to say and then click on Save. Even if you leave this disabled, right, when someone calls the conference, the system will say, welcome to the conference. Please enter the conference room number and then ask for the PIN number. Main fax box number. So this enables the inbound faxing on your account. Now, currently you can only have the one main fax box number. But if I didn't have this here, you would have the option to add from spare by new. And then you can click Edit Fax Box. Now on this account, the main fax box is broken. On your accounts, when you click Edit Fax Box, this will open up a window with 2 fields. The first field is for the inbound notification. So you put an email address there, right? So that email address, whenever a fax comes in, they get an email saying, hey, you have a new fax, here's the date, the time, and the fax number that it came from, and there'll be an attachment, PDF. So the person who's responsible for that email can double click on the attachment and see the fax. Likewise, if someone dials your fax box number and then they hear fax tones and hangs up, that inbound notification email address will get an email saying there was an unsuccessful inbound fax. The second field under Edit Fax Box, this is for the outbound permissions. So you could put an email address there, but it's actually designed mostly for your company domain, right? So if everyone at your company owns ABC, has an email address that ends at abccleaners.com, you can put that domain in that second field. So then all your staff members can send a fax out, even if they're not a user on Dash. All right, since I already brought it up, auto attendance, this is a plan-specific feature. It has a couple use cases. The first is for if you have multiple businesses on the same account, and those businesses have their own main greeting, their own phone numbers, but the calls will go to the same staff people among different businesses, right? So you have a dog walking business and a cleaning business. Calls would come in, they would have very different greetings, but you can have your same staff members answer calls for both businesses. The other use case is, and I believe I mentioned this already, is called submenuing. So if you want like calls coming to your virtual receptionist, and then you can have a greeting plate, press 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, right? When people do so, you would create a submenu, right? A sub-auto attendant. So you would create an English and a Spanish auto attendant, and then you could have, a Spanish greeting play for when they press 2, and the menu options for the Spanish menu would go to your Spanish-speaking staff members. So, up here at the top, you click Add Attendant. You give it a name and an extension number. The extension number is for internal use, right, for your staff members to use. And then you would click on Create Attendant. Once an attendant is created, if you click on the name, right, you see here it says unavailable in main menu. That means this is a standalone attendant, probably a separate business. Now you can click on that where it says unavailable in main menu. It will flip it to say available in main menu. So now it's a submenu option, right? So it will be an option under my virtual receptionist, for example. It will be an option under these other attendants if I want it to be that way. Right, phone numbers, attendants can have their own phone numbers, and they can have multiple. Right, you can click on the extension box so you can change out an extension if you're so inclined. Then we got the little wrench icon under settings. All right, so here you have open hours, lunch hours, after hours, and holidays. These settings are the same for all your attendants that you set up under your main number, under that set of settings. Right, now your secondary attendants, they only have the option to go to the virtual receptionist, right? There's no live operator hands option, right? Or no sending it straight to voicemail. But again, you add routes, you have your own greetings, you have your settings. Right? We just went over all of these. If when you log in you don't have auto attendance here, that means you don't have it as part of your plan. So if you're interested in changing plans to get multiple auto attendants, you're going to want to talk to our account services team. All right, next up we have devices. A green device, that means it's registered, so we can send a call to it. Right, red, that means it's unregistered, so we can't send calls to it. And then black means you've turned it off. Okay. Now, adding a device is done here at the top. First up, we have SIP phone, right? So this is that physical VoIP phone, right? It sits on a desk. So when you click on SIP phone, you have these manufacturers to choose from. And if you click on them, you'll see the models that are supporting auto provisioning. Right, some have a lot, like Yealink. Some, like Obahai, don't have that many. You got Cisco over here, kind of in the middle. So once you find your manufacturer and then the model of the phone you want to use, you need to give it a name, right? So you can say Bob's phone. And then you need the MAC address. The MAC address is unique to each phone. It's usually a sticker on the back of the phone, or if your phone's plugged in under, typically like under menu status or general or basic settings, there should be something called MAC, M-A-C, and you just enter that information here. Then you would click on Create Device, and then you would need to assign the device to a user. And within the dashboard, that's all you need to do. However, for the phone itself, you need to log into the phone's web user interface, the web UI. And you can basically, under those basic settings for the phone, you can find the IP address. You put that into the browser address bar, and that should allow you to access the web UI. And then you need to enter in a URL into the auto provisioning section of the phone's UI. For the specifics for the various manufacturers, you want to go to our dash support pages. On the right-hand side, about a third of the way down the page, you're looking for the document called Auto Provisioning Phones. You click on that, it's going to have screenshots for each of the manufacturers, the proper syntax for the URL, and in some cases, some settings just to verify that they're set the correct way. You basically then click Save or Update or Confirm, whatever the manufacturer uses, and then tell the phone to auto provision. The phone will then come out to that URL, get its config file. It will reboot a couple of times. After it's done rebooting, it should show up as a green device on your account, and then it's ready to use. Cell phone and landline are essentially identical. You give it a name, right? So Mary's phone, and then you put +1 area code and phone number, and then you click on Create Device. So let me open up one that I already created a while back. Right, so this is a cell phone I created earlier. Under Advanced Options, this is the default settings here for a cell phone or landline. So call comes in, being offered to your user, it's going out to your cell phone. Right, the phone rings, you pick up, you're going to hear, "This is a forwarded call, please press 1. When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take this call. Right? We hear the 1 tone, the system connects. Their system connects the call to you, and you can take the call. Now, let's say, for instance, you're using a cell phone, but really, or the cell phone label, I guess, but you're actually sending it calls to an automated answering service. Right? So that automated answering service can't press 1 to accept the call. Right? This is for like your after-hours use. So what you would do is under the phone's advanced settings, you would click here where it says Allow use of cell phone's voicemail. So what this does is, when we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. Right? We're not waiting for hearing you to press 1. So when it's going to your automated answering service, it works great, right? Call comes through, automated answering service picks up, we connect the call, and the answering service takes care of it from there. This is your actual cell phone, right? Call goes through, you're not able to pick up for whatever reasons, right? But your cell phone voicemail picks up. That's still a pickup tone. So we connect the call, that inbound caller, to your cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that, right? Some people absolutely do not. So basically, if you want that, make sure this is checked. If you don't, make sure it's unchecked. The other one that comes up here is Keep Original Caller ID. So say customer Mary calls your system, gets sent to your cell phone. On your cell phone's display, you see customer Mary's phone number. It's not a number you recognize, and you've already had a couple calls about extending your auto warranty, and you're sick of it. So you just let it go. Like, nope, don't need to answer this call. Hopefully you're able to get voicemail and then contact Mary later. If, however, you uncheck this one here, right, so uncheck Keep Original Caller ID, now the phone number that shows up on your cell phone's display is your main company number. Right, so then you know it's a work call. And what I mean by the main company number, let's go back to the dashboard here. It's this number here. So whatever number you select from this pull down, that's the number that shows up on your cell phone's display when customer Mary calls. So it's a way to let you know it's a work call versus a random. All right, soft phone, when you add a soft phone on the devices page, you always get this warning message. But it defaults, or it only allows you to create a third-party soft phone, right? So you're using a soft phone application from Counterpath. So you'd give it a name, then you would need to copy and paste the username, or the SIP username. If you click on the SIP password box, then you'd want to copy and paste this, and then you want to copy and paste the realm. Those are the 3 key pieces of information you would need to program that soft phone from Counterpath, or a VoIP phone that wasn't on the auto provision list. And then you would click on Create Device, assign it to a user, and then set up that device, that soft phone, with those 3 pieces of information. All right. Next up, we've got the Greetings Manager, or the Greetings tab. So here you see all your greetings on the account. Upload means you uploaded a file. TTS, that's a text-to-speech. And then recording means it was recorded over the phone. You can add a file up here at the top. You just give it a name, find the file on your computer, and then click on Create Greeting, and it will upload it. Again, that .wav, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Now, you notice I have many greetings. You can always click on the little download icon here. So that way you can download it to your system and then listen to it to see if it's still relevant. Or you can click on the little wrench icon. You can change the file name or delete it if you know you don't need it any longer. But if you change the name, just go ahead and click on Save Changes. All right, groups. These are departments. If you click on Add Group at the top, you give it a name and an extension number. And then you click and drag your staff members that you want to be in this group. And then you click on Create Group. Now, once a group is created, you can click on the name. Right, you can change the name. You can also change the number of group call attempts. This means how many times the inbound caller is offered to your staff members. And then you would click on Save Changes. There's little arrows here. You can change it up or down for the group call attempts. If you click on the members box, you can see your staff members here who are all in the group. Now along the top here, these are timestamps. This last one you can edit. The default is 120 seconds for a new group, 2 minutes. Right, this one was expanded up to 240. So right now, I'm having calls go in sequence. Now these are sliders, so I can do this. I'm setting up what's referred to as blast ringing or ring all. Right, so if I save changes right now, basically a call comes into this group, it rings everybody at the same time for the same amount of time until someone picks up. Now I can also click and drag on a person's name and change the order. Then I can click distribute. Right, and I can still do that now if I wanted to. Right, like this, click distribute again. Those are your routing options for calls going into a group. A couple things to keep in mind. When calls coming into a group and they reach out to a user, so let's say a Jan here, when a group call comes to him, all his devices on his user will ring. It's not going to listen or not follow or make use of the following calling settings on Jan's user. Extensions, groups can have extensions, right? That's part of the creation process. You can add multiple extensions for a group, and again, typically used for your staff members to transfer calls to a group, or if your inbound callers know a group is group extension number. Groups can have their own phone number. You notice here I have a 702 number on this group. You can add it from spare. You can buy new numbers to add directly. Now, this phone number is not going to follow the hours of operation, meaning this phone number is available 24 hours a day. So if the one person in this group, right, so if Jade has his personal cell phone number as a device, then he can get calls from this 702 number at 3 in the morning. So something to be aware of. Right, group features. First is ringback. This allows you to upload a BD file, right, .mp3, .wave, .ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. This file will play when the system hears ringing to one of your users in the group, right? So call comes into the group, it's being sent out to the users that are assigned to the group. Once the system detects that ringtone coming back from the devices, then the media file will start playing to the person, your customer, who's waiting for one of your staff members to pick up. Right now, if for some reason we don't hear that ringing, then no media file plays, no ringing sound plays, it's just silence until we get some kind of indication from devices that they're ringing. So the ringback replaces the sound of ringing. Next action, basically, you're saying is, if no one answers call in the group, where am I sending it to? And you have a pull down. So you can send it back to your virtual receptionist. You can send it to one of your other attendants. You can send it to a call queue. You can send it to a specific phone. You can send it to another group. You can send it to a specific user or a voicemail box. And then click on Save Changes. Allow call forward. If you enable this, that means your users can make use of call forwarding. Like they're not at their normal Yailing phone at their desk. They can make use of call forwarding to send calls to, say, their cell phone. Or you can say no, that means they can only use whatever phones that are assigned to their user. And then caller ID prepend. Again, this is for your VoIP phone users. You can add text or numbers in front of the caller ID so your staff members know what kind of call this is about. All right, next up we have the numbers manager. So first up we got numbers in use. Basically shows your phone numbers and where they're going. You got the little gear icons here, so you can always set up the caller ID E911 and prepend. For spare numbers, keep an eye up here where it says numbers. So say I decide I no longer want a phone number, I can click on the box in front of it, and now I've got the option to delete. Delete these numbers, be sure. Confirming that. And now the numbers have been removed from my account, and I save money on my bill. You can always buy numbers here, right? Local and toll-free, same process that we went over earlier. You, for a local, enter in the area code and do a search. and it will add it as a spare number, which means then you can assign it later where you need it to go. Port. This starts the port process. And so port means moving a phone number from one carrier to another. So say from Comcast to VirtualPBX. You give it a name. You say if it's local or toll-free. And then you click next. Now it's asking you to upload a copy of your bill. Then it'll ask you to enter in the service address for that phone number. It'll ask you for the numbers that you want to port. And you can have multiple numbers on the same port. You just want to make sure they're from the same carrier. Because if you're porting from AT&T and Comcast, for example, you'd want to have two separate port requests. Then it will give you the opportunity to download a blank letter of agency, or LOA, and then upload a completed and signed LOA. And then you could submit, and those two documents are sent to our porting team. You'll get an email right away saying you've submitted your port request. By the next business day, you should get a second email from our porting team, an actual person, and saying, yes, we did get your port request. Here's some things to keep in mind about porting. For the LOA, it asks for company information, like company name, address. That information should match what the current carrier has on file, so what Comcast has on file. It does need to be signed, whether that's you printed it out and signed it manually, or you have a digital signature file that you just put on in the signature field. Either way will work. Now, in general, porting takes time. Right? A local number can port anywhere from 1 business day to about 3 weeks. The 1 business day is typically like a Google Voice number that's already been unlocked, is the most typical example of that. Most of the time, local numbers take about a week to 2 weeks. Toll-free numbers take about 3 to 5 business days. And in both cases, that's assuming that all the information is correct. If there is a problem, the losing carrier will let us know. They give us an email saying address mismatch or end user mismatch or something like that. They don't often give us great details, right? They're not going to say, oh, the street number was wrong. They'll just say address mismatch. We pass that information to you, and at that point, you'll need to confirm with the current carrier what the information is supposed to be. And then we can resubmit. If for some reason you're not able to submit the port request through the dashboard, you can always email the documents to porting@virtualpbx.com as well. All right, users. That shows all the users on the page. Little blue suit icon, that means that person is a system admin. Little gray person icon means they're a standard user. If you click on add user, you enter their first and last name. The email address used for login, that needs to be unique for each user. Right, so you can't reuse support@virtualpbx.com for like 5 different people. Right, then you create a password for them, and then you choose or enter in an extension number for them. Right, now this system is suggesting extension 1021 because I started with extension 1000. But you can enter in whatever extension number you want. Then we've got create the voicemail box for the user. This voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user. So if like you create the user, then add a VoIP phone to their user, they can pick up their VoIP phone, hit *98, and that will automatically log them into the voicemail box that was just created with their user. They'll then be prompted to enter in a PIN number or create a PIN number for their voicemail box, as well as create their voicemail greeting. Here you got the option to include in the user directory. You can change this later. Then we got the send emails to an alternate address, and then you enter in a different email address. So by default, when a user is created, like when they get a voicemail, the system automatically emails the email used for login with the details of the voicemail as well as an attachment. If, however, you have the send email to an alternate address, then we're only sending it to this alternate address. We're not sending it to the email used for login. Again, you can change that later. And then lastly, probably one that's pretty important, send credentials to the user. So that way they get their login information. If you only need to create one person, you just click on Create User. Otherwise, you click on Create User and add another. If you click on a user's name, you can change their name. You can change their credentials, right? So their email address and their password. You can change their voicemail box PIN number, and that's a temporary PIN number. Here you've got the option to send to an alternate address, as well as if you want to include them in the user directory. Over here, this is where you change a person into a user or an admin, or a user into an admin. It's just a pull down. Here is the time zone that the user is in. I just do a search typically like for this major city. Next up, we've got the display language. This is what the web pages will display for that user. You have English, French, German, and Russian. Then we got ringing timeout. The default is 20 seconds, which is plenty of time to send calls to a landline or a VoIP phone. If your user is going to be using a cell phone only, you're going to want to change this to 45 seconds to, say, 60. Generally speaking, it takes longer to route a call to a cell phone than it does to, say, a landline. Right? Call comes into a PBX system, doesn't matter who it is. Right? Gets to a user, then it goes out to those users' devices. So when a PBX is sending out a call to a landline, right? Call goes to a landline telecom, they know here, go right here to the phone. We know exactly where it is, right? Whereas call from a PBX is going out to a cell phone provider. Cell phone provider says, hold up, we have to find them first, right? They ping the cell phone towers, they find you, and they say, okay, send the call through. That delay, that in terms of trying to find you, is why you need to have a longer ring time for calls going to a cell phone than you do to a landline or a VoIP phone. Users have extensions, and they can have multiple if you want them to. Users can have their own phone numbers. Right? You can add from spare, buy new, get the little gear icon here as well. And this phone number works 24/7, right? It's not going to pay attention to the hours of operation. And then users, you can add devices. Actually, let's go down to Jade here. All right, so you can add SIP phone, cell phone, etc. For soft phone, when you click on it, again, you get that little warning message. So you give it a name, and right now it's defaulting to use third-party application, right? It even says that and it's grayed out down here. If you click on it where it says use third-party application, it'll flip it and say use VirtualPBX application. So then you just need to give it a device name. You click on create device, and then you click on save changes. Once you click on save changes, this user, Jade, he'll get an email with his username and password for the soft phone, from the VirtualPBX soft phone. It'll also have links to download the app to his phone, or you can also download to Windows or Mac-based PC. Likewise, you can add the web phone right here to a user. Again, you get that same wireless warning. You just create a device name and click on create device. Click on save changes. Now the web phone, it makes use of a user's login. Right, so whatever email address you use for login, whatever password you created for them, same information would be used on the web phone login page, webphone.virtualpbx.net. Right, so email address, password, and the account name. right? And then they can use Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls. All right, user features. A caller ID number, this only is available if a user has a phone number. So if we go back up to Aaron here. All right, it's on because he has a phone number. Basically what you do is when you're selecting a phone number, this becomes the default outbound caller ID for Aaron. Right now, if I disabled it and clicked on Save Changes, right, if we go back to the dashboard under if we go back to the dashboard under that caller ID, when Aaron makes an outbound call, that would be the phone number that shows up when he has the caller ID. Call forwarding, off, pretty self-explanatory. On, so you can set this up for your users, but they can also set this up themselves via the user portal or using feature codes on a VoIP phone. Basically, you choose a desktop or mobile phone, you put +1 area code and phone number, click on Save Changes. This forwarding device should not already be a device on the user, right? So if you've already put, say, Megan's cell phone as a device, you don't need to make use of call forwarding because you're already sending it to her cell phone. Right? Basically, call forwarding is for you're sending it to a phone you don't use every day. Hot desking, if you enable this, this is a VoIP-based feature. You enter in a hot desk ID. So if you use 4-digit extensions, for example, I just say, make it a hot desk ID match their extension number, because it's something they'll easily can remember. And then you would click on Save Changes. Hot desking is for a shared office environment. So a lot of companies are going into a hybrid work schedule, right, where people work remote like 3 days a week, but then they come to the office 2 days a week. Hot desking would be great for that because that way it allows offices to shrink their footprint in terms of square footage as well as devices in terms of VoIP phones. So I could come into the office on today, Tuesday, sit at desk number 7. Right? I pick up the VoIP phone, I hit *11, that toggles on hot desking. The system will ask me for my hot desk ID. If my admin created a PIN number, then it will ask me for the PIN number as well. And then the system will tell me calls will now be sent to this device. So now anyone trying to reach me, whether I'm in a group, I'm in a queue, or someone just enters my extension number directly, will ring at the phone I'm sitting at. Right? Then I can take the call, handle it. End of my day, I pick up the handset again, I hit *12 to turn off hot desking. And then I go home. Right? The next time I come into the office, let's say it's Friday, someone's already sitting at desk number 7. I'm like, oh, whatever, no big deal. Desk number 15, I'll sit at you, do the same thing. Hit *11 on the phone, hit my desk ID, and now phone calls are coming to me on that phone. Voicemail, again, should have, or most likely was created when the user was created, and this is the default settings, right? So voicemail to email is enabled, and they're attaching the voicemail to that email. So call comes in to Aaron, he doesn't answer for whatever reasons, he gets a voicemail, he'll get an email saying, hey, you got a voicemail, it came from this phone number, it was coming to, it came in on this other, company phone number or his own number, and I'll let him know how long it is. There'll be an attachment that he can just double click on his computer and listen to the MP3 file and hear the voicemail. Now, voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. And when you get delivered by email, it doesn't delete the voicemail from your voicemail box automatically. All right, so Aaron would have to go back in and either access his voicemail via the user portal or call in over the phone and delete voicemails so he doesn't get to that 100 limit. Now, you can also, as an admin, you can select this option here. All right, you're basically, when you put a check mark here, you're saying, hey, after we send out that email with the attachment, delete the voicemail from the voicemail box. So now you don't have to, Aaron doesn't have to worry about his voicemail box ever getting full. And likely on his computer, he has plenty of storage, so he can keep all the voicemails if he wants to. Now, the transcribe option up here, this is actually a plan-specific feature. Basically, the system listens to the voicemail and tries to type it out for you in the body of the email. All right, so you can have transcription and have the system attach the file. So in the body of the email, right, you'd have what the system thinks it said, and then you have the attachment so you can double-click and listen to it to verify. But transcription is a plan-specific feature, so you'd want to talk to our account services team if you want to add that on or change your plan so you have it. Users can have their own fax box. All right, so if you enable, there we go. Oops, I am over clicking. All right, so first you have to decide, are you gonna give them a separate phone number for their fax box, or do you want to use an extension? I generally recommend making use of a phone number, as that gives you the most versatility. However, that can increase your bill. If you assign an extension, that means Aaron can only ever receive inbound faxes. He's not going to be able to send an outbound fax. So let's say 399. All right, and then you click on Save Changes. So for people sending faxes to Aaron, right, they have to call into the main number. After the greeting or during the greeting, they enter 399, and then they hit Start Fax on their fax machine. And then it'll get sent to his fax extension. Now, that's great usually for most physical fax machines, right? You can either listen in and know when to hit 399, or you can enter in like ** or comma to add a pause after the phone number, and then have the 399 get entered. Email to fax services may not allow you to fax to an extension. So that would be a problem for those people. Likewise, when Aaron tries to fax out, right, he creates an email, right, +1 area code phone number @ account realm, adds a PDF, hit send. The system, grabs that information and because it's using his email address and knows which user it's associated with, and says, oh, he has a fax box. His outbound caller ID for this fax is the extension that's associated with the fax box. That's not a valid caller ID, so the fax would fail. If, however, you changed it to use a phone number, right, the system would simply use the fax box phone number as the outbound caller ID, and the fax can still go through. All right, Conference Bridge. And as an admin, once you enable a Conference Bridge, all you need to do is enter in a PIN number and then click on Save Changes. Your users can go to their user portal and change their PIN numbers for the Conference Bridge themselves. All right, Follow Me is best with a user with multiple devices. So we'll set it up here on Jade. All right, so first you enable the feature, and then you have to tell, okay, which of these phones am I using? You need to select at least one, but we'll go ahead and select all three. And then these are sliders. Oops. Now you have the timestamps across the top here. All right, this one is, you can edit. I can also just click Distribute. Right. And just like in the groups, I can change the order. So I can bring in this order instead, and then I would click on Save Changes. All right, music on hold. You can have your users have their own hold music if you want them to. All right, you would just click Enable, upload a .ogg, .mp3, or .wav file, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte, and then click on Save Changes. Customize call recording. Now, first you can enable it. You don't have to do this, obviously. This is how it looks like initially. Basically, the system wants to know, okay, which kinds of calls do you want to record? Right, inbound internal means coworker Bob called me. Inbound external, customer Mary called me. Whereas outbound internal, right, that means I called coworker Bob. And then outbound external means I called customer Mary. And then click on Save Changes. Now, your account comes with some amount of storage as part of your plan price. You're going to want to check with account services to verify how much storage you have and also what the overage is if you go over. And then do not disturb. If you enable this, that means call will be offered to the phones on the user and instead would go directly to voicemail. Now, if they're in a queue, they're not going to be offered calls in the queue. You want to be careful about doing that. Voicemail boxes. So here you'll see all the user voicemail boxes have their name associated here, as well as you can create your own voicemail boxes, which is why they don't have a user field there. You would click on Add Voicemail Box if you want to create a standalone voicemail box. You just give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number, and then click on Create New Voicemail Box. You know, click on the wrench icon for any voicemail box, so you can see the name, the voicemail box number, and the PIN number. If we go to Advanced, go to Greeting Media first. So this is where you can upload a voicemail greeting file to any voicemail box. Right, you would just click Upload under Media, find the file, .ogg, .wave, .mp3, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Then click the Upload arrow icon, click Save Changes. Now the temporary file, this would be this one here. This is for like your vacation out of office file. So if you have something selected under here, it's going to supersede whatever you have selected under the media file, right? And then when the person comes back, you just set this back to none, and then click on Save Changes. Recipients. Now, your user voicemail boxes already have one recipient built in, right? Because they have that email address used for login. You can add additional recipients to those voicemail boxes if you want, but especially for your voicemail boxes that you create like this, right, the manual method here, you'd want to add a recipient so that way someone is aware of these voicemails being left. And then we have the options. So once a voicemail box has a media file and recipients, then you can click on the box for already set up. And then the other things that come up, again, here's the delete after notification, attach messages to voicemail. Here's transcribe if you have transcription available. Some of you may want to do this, the announce only mode. This means a voicemail box is only designed to give out a message, like hours of operation, right? It's not going to be able to take in any inbound messages. And then you would click on Save Changes. Advanced routing, this is for, or currently, shows direct inward system access, or DISA. DISA allows a cell phone or landline user to call into the system and log in, and then make an outbound call, so that way their cell phone is not the outbound caller ID. All right, so you go up here, you click Enable, and it creates a PIN number for you automatically. If you click Edit Settings, you can change the PIN number. You can also add an extension. Without an extension, DISA, that means you need to set it up as a menu option under the virtual receptionist or one of your auto attendants. Right? If you add an extension, then you don't need to set it up as a menu option. So now, from my cell phone, I can call in to one of my main numbers. That rings to the auto attendant or virtual receptionist. When I hear the main greeting play, I enter in this extension number. The system will ask me for the PIN number, so I'll enter that. Then I'll hear dial tone again. So then I enter area code and phone number that I'm trying to reach out to, and I make a call. And instead of my cell phone showing up, it's going to be back to this, the main company caller ID. Right, so this 408 phone number would show up as the outbound caller ID. Now, for new accounts, like newly signed up accounts, this is not available immediately. And that is, so you can request it from our account services team or even our support team to have it enabled. It's not enabled by default because if someone is able to figure out your PIN number and the extension number, they'll be able to make outbound calls on your account and you won't know about it right away. Which is why I always disable it, so that way I don't have to worry about it on this account. Next up, we have the call logs. So this shows your call history on the account. And you can go to this month to get a longer list. Little green arrow to the right means that's a call that came into the system. And you can get some details more, some more details sometimes. Here you go, where you see the call was sent to this VoIP phone, or actually this cell phone to this VoIP phone, for how long. Originally cancel means the inbound caller hung up before someone could answer. The yellow arrows to the left, that's an outbound call. All right, so you can see that, okay, this cell phone or this VoIP phone made a call out to this phone number. Little fire hydrant icon over here. This creates an email that will go to support@virtualpbx.com. Basically, if something went wrong with a call, is why you would do that. Type in the body of the email saying, like, you know, your phone didn't actually ring, or you had bad audio, or something like that. Now, you can download this file. It's a .csv. Also, under custom, you can select as a custom date range and download the file. You can go back up to a year in terms of your call activity. Unfortunately, you won't be able to go back any further than that. So if you need to keep call log data, you probably want to do it every month, so that way it's not huge files. Plus, it's easy for you to label it, you know, August 2021, and that way you know it's all the calls for that month. All right, then we got feature codes. I've already mentioned a couple of these, like the hot desking one, but basically allows your VoIP phone users to access different features right from their phone. These are also on our website, so you don't have to log in to look at the feature codes. There's also a document on our support page. It's called the Phone Commands Cheat Sheet. It's a PDF. It has all of these commands, but also a brief description of what they do. Pretty handy file. All right, so this was all the dashboard. So next up, we've got ACD queues. ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution, so call center feature. This is available on certain plans as an add-on. Right, so some plans you can't even add it on. Other plans you'd have you'd have to upgrade your plan to be able to then add on a queue. Standard queues is what we're looking at right here. I believe are $15 or $30 per month per queue, and you want to verify pricing with our account services team or our sales team if you're not already signed up with us. There's also Pro queues, which I believe are at $99 per month. All right, you click on Add New Queue, you give it a name, and then you give it either a phone number or an extension. Right, then we go to the queue configuration. And then we have the routing strategy. Unfortunately, the pull down is not working. Round robin will equalize out over time. There is ring all on the standard queues. It's not available on the pro queues. That means it rings everybody at once. There is most idle, which means whoever's been waiting for the call the longest gets the next call that comes in. There is least calls, meaning whoever has the least amount of connected calls will get the next call that comes into the queue. And then there's least offers. Least offers is the combination of connected and missed calls, right? So whoever has the least amount of least offered calls gets the next call that comes in. Hold treatment, you can upload your own file, .wav, .ogg, .mp3, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. The pro queues, you have more hold treatment options. You can have things like announce their position in line, announce their expected wait time, as well as have multiple different media files play if you're so inclined. The queue timeout measured in seconds. This is how much time your inbound callers can wait on hold. The queue call limit. This is how many people can wait on hold. Now this is on top of people who are already speaking to your staff members. Timeout immediately if empty. If you have no staff members logged in and a call happens to come into the queue, and this is enabled, it's going to treat that call as if it already hit that 3,600 seconds. Escalation queue is if your staff members are busy, the system will automatically send calls to a second queue. Obviously, that means you're paying for a second queue. And then escalation call flow after timeout. So after 3,600 seconds, what do you want the system to do with the call? None means the call will simply end. Right, advanced call flows, I'm sending it to one of my other attendants. I can send it to a specific device. I can send it to a specific user. I can send it to the user directory. I can send it to one of my ring groups. I can send it to a media file. Again, once the media file stops, then the call ends. And I can send it to a voicemail box. Now, if you're making use of an escalation queue, so call comes into queue number 1, right? And then the call gets routed to queue 2. The system still tracks the timer based off of when the call entered queue number 1, right? So once that 3,600 seconds elapses, even if the call isn't already in queue number 2 because of escalation, it gets pulled back and gets sent to the escalation call flow after timeout for queue number 1. Right, so next we got the agent behavior. Agent recovery time in seconds is how much time after they're done with the call that agent has before the system will offer them a second call from this queue. Excuse me. Then we got force away on reject or missed. If I enable this, this means if an agent misses a call, then the system will automatically put them in away mode. And then agent connect timeout measured in seconds. 20 is plenty of time for a call to VoIP phone. Currently, for your agents, they can only take queue calls from a VoIP device. So soft phone, web phone, SIP phone. And then you would click on create queue. Once you've created a queue, over here on the left, you want to click on the little members icon, person with the headset. Call center members. So these are my staff members that can be in an ACD queue. They don't have to be in all of them, right? I can select which ones they're a part of. If I click on manage members here, my list on the left, these are staff members not already in a queue or not assigned to be in queues, right? List on the right, these are my queue members. If I click on someone, I can click on add as a member. And now they are in the queue, or available to be in queues. If I click back on the little queues icon here, click on the name of the queue, I can add additional agents. Right, I already have 9 assigned. So Jean, who I just assigned the queues, I can click and drag her over. and then click on Save Changes. And so now she's a member of this queue. Once you've assigned agents, you can also then choose which of those agents are managers. So like I can click and drag and make Kathy. There we go. And then Save Changes. So now for your staff members who are available to be in the queues, right, when they log into Dash, they'll have the option to get to queues. When they get here, they want to click on Begin Session. And now you see I'm logged into the queue. I'm red because I'm currently away. When you log into a queue, you want your agents to click on the little phone icon here to the right. And then they want to select a specific device, one of their devices. And then, oops, they mark themselves ready, so that means now they can take calls that come into the queue. Right, so now calls come in, I'm green, right, so I'm ready. If I'm on an inbound queue call, my little bar here will turn blue. If I'm on an outbound call or external call from the queue, this bar turns yellow. If I'm on wrap-up time, it turns gold. For the pro queues, you also have a middle icon here for performance, so you can compare multiple agents to each other in terms of like their call activity. You also, under the pro queues, managers can eavesdrop on a call, as well as whisper to your staff member or just barge in and take over the call. For your agents, right, when they go to lunch, just mark themselves as away. And then end of the day, click on End Session. Next up is Blacklist. This is included. There's no special features. You would click on Edit Blacklists. Right. If you don't have any lists, you just click on Add. And then you fill out the name, and then Block Anonymous. If you turn this on, that means if we do not get valid inbound caller ID, we'll block the call from reaching your system. Right. Otherwise, down here, you would click Add Number. You put +1 area code and phone number for each number you want to block from reaching your account. Right. You can add multiple numbers to a list. And then when you're done, you would click on Save. Go back to Settings. And you want to make sure your list is over here on the right under Selected. Right, so these lists are active, which means any phone numbers associated on these lists, when they try to call any of my phone numbers on my account, so my main number, one of my users' numbers, group numbers, whatever, they get a busy tone. Right? They can't get through. Right. Dynamic caller ID, this is a plan-specific feature. This allows your VoIP phone users to be able to change their outbound caller ID. You have to just set up rules for how they do that. So this first one here, right? You give it a name, and then you choose a phone number that's already on your account. Right? So one of your main numbers, it can be one of your users' numbers, it can be a group number, etc. But any phone number that's already on the account, and then you create a feature code, right? Star and then numbers. So basically, what happens is VoIP phone users pick up the VoIP phone, hit this feature code, dial the phone number they're going to call. And so in this case, right, pick up, hit *71, say I dial a area code 323 phone number. My outbound caller ID, however, is going to be a 918 phone number. The other way you can do it is like we have up here for the 408 area code. Right, I give it a name. I chose a 408 phone number. So now, and I said, whenever my staff members pick up the phone and dial 408 number, it's going to create or make use of this 408 number as their outbound caller ID. Faxes, this goes to your fax manager, so you can see the fax activity on your account. This is included in all plans that have faxing, but you can get to any of your fax boxes to see your fax activity. I don't know if I have much fax activity. Oh, I did receive one here on the 16th at this time. Right, it came from a 305 area code phone number. Here's the number that received it. The pages, I can download the file if I want to. Likewise, I can go to outbound faxes. Again, I can select the fax box. You can see I successfully sent out 3 different faxes. One at the end of July, a couple last week. You can see the number I faxed to, or faxed from, sorry, and the number I faxed to. The pages, I can download the file. The email to fax logs would show you errors people were having when they're trying to fax out among your staff members. Typically, over here on the right under details, there'll be a little eyeball icon. If you click on that, that'll give you more details. Normally we see things like people use their personal email address versus their work address, or they didn't attach a PDF, or maybe not even an attachment at all, they forgot. Right, the monitor, this is a plan-specific feature, so you have to talk with account services, but this shows your status of your staff members, right? So right now I'm looking at my users. I can also flip it to show the device status. Right, likewise, if I go back here, right, this is everybody. I can see who's available. I can see who's busy. It's kind of hard to see here, but over here on the left, I can see the active inbound calls, as well as any parking spots in use, as well as the parking spot number. The number manager included, this takes you back to your spare numbers list, so you can buy numbers, port, etc. The recording manager, it's actually not going to load here because of the streaming software. So by default, this will take you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. It uses your dash login. And then you can see the recordings that are on the account. You can download them or remove them from the account. You can also link AWS store. So if you have an AWS account, you can link that to your Dash account so you can have your call recordings stored there. And when you do that, then when you click on the recordings manager, you'll basically show recordings under your AWS account. Reports, this is advanced reporting, so that goes to reports.virtualpbx.com. This is a plan-specific feature, so you'd need to talk to our account services team. But this allows you to create your own reports, gives you a bit more detail than the call logs. Actually, quite a bit more detail when you get into it. We do have a demo for the advanced reporting on our YouTube page here. Go under videos and look for advanced reporting. It's like 7 minutes long. But it gives a good overview of the reporting feature. Voicemails, this goes to the voicemail manager. This is included on all plans. But you can go to a particular voicemail box. And see, okay, I got a couple new voicemails back from about a month ago. You can see who they came from and the phone number they dialed, duration of the message. You can play it back, you can listen to it. Now, as an admin, if you click on the box here, you can actually move the voicemail to a different voicemail box. Right, so you can listen to it and say, oh, this is the wrong person, let me move it over to someone else. Right, otherwise, you can change their status as new, listen, or deleted. Webhooks. This is a plan-specific feature, so it's something if you're interested in, you need to talk to our sales team. Has the information on this. This allows you to link Dash to other software. If you want examples of things that we have done, you would want to go to developer.virtualpbx.com. It's going to have a lot of examples of the things we've done, like linking dash to say Slack, for example, among other things. And then lastly, the user portal. Every user on your account has their own user portal. As an admin, you can't get to someone else's user portal, right? You can basically get to everything else. But when a user logs in to their user portal, they start off on their voicemails, right? So they can see their new messages, who it came from, a number, they can see the duration, they can listen to it, they can download it. And if they click on the check mark, they can only change the status, right? They can't move it to someone else. The call history tab, your staff members can see their call history, they can adjust the dates. Faxes, they can see their faxing history, both inbound and outbound. They can also adjust the dates. The contact list shows all your dash information in terms of your users, your groups, your attendance. This is not something your users can add to. This is like, basically, unless they're an admin, right? If they're an admin, they can add new users, so that would update this contact list. Conference tab. Over here to the right is where your staff members would adjust their pins, right? Moderator and participant. Then they have the option, do people come in muted? Do people enter in deafened? As well as, are you playing entry and exit tones? Up here, the plus sign, you can invite other Dash users to your conference. You can then lock a conference. You can mute everybody, you can unmute everybody, or you can end the conference. When you're actually within a conference, you can mute a specific person as well as kick a specific person. And then we have the settings and devices tab. This is where your users would set up their own call forwarding. They'll put a check mark there, enter in +1 area code and phone number, and click on save, as well as see the status of their devices. All right, that is everything. I haven't seen any questions pop up. I do apologize for the length. We had a couple hiccups here in terms of my internet connection slowing us down. So I apologize for that and that it's in 2 parts. But we will be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And I thank you for your time today.